Good morning, Denise Dryden here in Whitefish, Montana on Facebook Live. And I do these weekly presentations, video blogs on the different elements that we get to address as parents. And today I'm down on the Whitefish River, and I don't know, can't really see the dock, but there's a dock right there. And this new office that I got has a dock, and my paddleboard's right up there. So whenever I'm done with sessions, I get to go sit on my paddleboard and sort of let go of the day, which is part of what I wanted to talk about today. I got this quote this morning posted by Kelly Brewer, who's one of my favorite people in the Flathead. And it's by Ursula Le Guin from The Farthest Shore. And it's, when I was young, I had to choose between a life of being and doing. And I leapt to the ladder like a trout to a fly. But each deed you do, each act binds you to itself and its consequences, and it makes you act again and yet again. Then very seldom do you come upon a space, a time like this, between act and act, when you may stop and simply be, or wonder who you are after all. And so the topic, I love that quote because it's a really good introduction to, you know, how did you learn to parent? And what is this whole parenting thing all about? So, you know, when people ask me what I do, I tell them I coach parents. And they're like, oh, you're a parent coach. And I'm like, yeah, sort of, maybe not. What I do is I look at it in the sense of we're human beings. We go through life. We make decisions. We have jobs. We have... you know, we're a child, we're a teen, we're an adult, we have jobs, we have relationships, we have all of that. When we choose to parent, we have to learn how to do all of that we already do, holding a child off to the side and guiding them, leading them, mentoring them, imprinting them as we go along, right? So it doesn't mean that our life stops. It means that our life takes a direction where we're now a leader. We're now solely in charge of stewarding another soul forward, right? And that responsibility requires some attention. It requires some effort, some tools. So then my question is when will you choose to parent? What are your resources, right? You know, what do you do what your parents did? Do you just duplicate whatever you learned from your mom and dad? Do you consciously do the exact opposite of them? Like, hey, I will never do that, and then find little times when it kind of creeps in when you don't want it to. Do you seek out role models and teachers? You know, do you watch movies? Do you read books? Do you take classes? Do you study? Do you go like, how do I do this, right? As a parent, it's impossible. How do I do this? Or do you creatively collaborate with other adults and go, what do you do? How can I solve this problem? And do you know how to become present to yourself so that you can literally find out if there's resources around you instead of getting swamped in the diapers and the toddlers and the school schedules and the teenage behaviors and the college funding and, I mean, like everything that comes in for 20 years while we're parents, right? Affects us. Are you flexible? You know, this is one of those tools where can you change directions on a dime and then take your team that direction? Whether it's a relocation, whether it's a change in job, whether it's a change in bedtime, think about it, could be anything. Can you change directions? Are you open to new ideas? You know, I'll give you an example. I've been doing yoga every week or weekly, 2 times a week for the last year. And there's a certain pose that I've been learning how to do, right? And I thought I was really good at it. And then my yoga teacher came over and she just pushed the tops of my feet back a little bit and everything changed. And I was like, oh, it's a completely different way to hold this pose. So as a parent, do we let someone kind of come up and gently push us in a direction that we need to go and go, thank you, I didn't know that would work? Or are we in our own world spinning, doing, and forgetting that there's resources and there's people out there that we can ask for help, right? Do you let life take you in that new direction? Or are you stubbornly holding on to, I created this and I'm committed to this and I'm going to plow through come hell or high water, right? Or am I flexible? Am I open to change? What happens when change comes in? Again, presence. When I'm present and something talks to me, am I able to go that direction, or do I even allow that to happen? The thing that I wanted to really stress in this video is that parenthood changes us. We are not the same human being at 25. I was 28 when my first child was born, and I had had a pretty, really nice life up until that point, in a pretty successful career. And what I noticed was I thought I was going to do this as a parent, right? And then when this adorable baby girl came in, I realized I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this. And then I had to evolve into, what does it look to let go of the career? What does it look like to work part-time? What does it look like to slowly, gently let go when my second child came? What does it look like to embrace supporting a community as a mom with 3 children? And so what I noticed was I changed, and my relationship with my husband changed, my relationship with my parents changed, my relationship with myself changed. And so parenthood changes us, because we don't know what that wild card is going to be until that baby's born, right? So then the question is how do you advocate for yourself, right? How do you become this researcher of you, like what works for me, what doesn't work for me? This is no longer effective. I have to change and redirect and go over here. How do you take care of yourself first? Using the airplane analogy, that when in an emergency, when the oxygen mask falls, you have to take care of yourself so that you're present and you're available to lead the people you love forward, right? So we have to take care of ourselves. So, what do you need? Do you even know that? Have you ever asked yourself, if I could have anything I needed right now to support me where I am right now? Forget about tying it up all up in a knot and putting it over there and pretending it doesn't exist, but what do I actually need? What do I want? And then how do I communicate this to my partner, my co-parenting partner? And how do I communicate this to my children? So that might look like when I went through my divorce and was working for the first time, our very first summer vacation came along, and I was working and getting up. I had to be at work at 7, and I had teenagers in the house who were on vacation. And so finally I had to say, we have to come up with a different set of parenting and child rules here. I need the house to be quiet at 10. You still can have friends over, you guys can still cook, you can go get your pizzas, you can do whatever you want, but I need the house to be quiet at 10 because I'm going to get up at 6. And in return, when I get up at 6, I'm going to be really quiet so that I don't disturb you. And maybe it's a good deal that nobody sleeps in the front room because that's right next to the kitchen. How about if you have sleepovers, they sleep in your rooms? And so what we did is we creatively renegotiated something that had been in existence in our house for years, which is kids are welcome to spend the night. It's Friday night or it's summer vacation, and yet I had to renegotiate and stand up for me and do it as a leader, guiding my children forward. You teach them about adulthood. You teach them how you make changes and then how to collaborate as a team member with those changes. So then it comes down to, how do you clearly define limits and guidance? Which is, if that 10 o'clock curfew is crossed, what do I want to do about that? And how do I come up and say, I thought we had an agreement that 10 o'clock, and just so you know, it's really important for me at my work that we are able to do this, right? So how can we come together and renegotiate a different time or a different way of being quiet or settling in so that I'm holding my boundary, which is I need sleep, I'm getting up early, and still recognizing that I've put something on them that they weren't really ready for. So how do I guide them through that boundary? So it's identifying the edge. A boundary is identifying that edge as a parent, like what happens when the last kid's in bed? What can I do to take care of myself? Not check out with a glass of wine or weed or whatever parents, we all do to sort of go like, I'm done for the day. But how do I honor, hey, I just finished something, and then I'm going to transition into time for me? And how do I do that with sort of a ceremony, a recognition that I matter and it's time for me now? Whether it's a weekend or an alternating weekend if there's a divorce situation, or that that time when the babies are asleep, you know, or that time when you get off work and before you walk in the door at home. How do you honor and transition and hold a boundary of, this is my edge, and when I'm getting up on that edge, I know that I have to communicate that edge to other people. So whether it's sleep or time to relax or work or rules, it helps to know where your edge is and then how to collaboratively reinforce it. And again, you're a team leader, whether you want to be or not. You get to be a manager. And then where did you learn boundaries, and how do you set them up? Are you okay with advocating for yourself? That's the biggest question. How do you bring them in when you haven't had them? How do you, like, I never had a boundary. No one knows anything in my house about boundaries. How do I learn about those? You know, how do you? Do you research them? Do you call? How do you identify boundaries? And then how do you change them when life changes, like what we were talking about? So parenting is a 20-year plus process. It goes on for a long, long time, and it changes. I've got mockingbirds talking right above me. You know, we grow up as human beings when we parent. We might have our kids in our early 20s, or mid-20s, or late 20s, or early 30s, mid-30s, and in that 20-year period, we build a life. We buy houses, we change careers, we come into ourselves in our 30s and our 40s, but we grow up in front of our children. So what we want to do is show them how much fun growing up is, right? This is what I'm learning to do. Mom just got a paddleboard. And my kids are like, what? And I've got a paddleboard, and I've got to learn how to get some upper body strength and get down on this dock and start working the river. And I have to show them how I discover the things I want to do as I go along. And I can include them, or I can say, this is something that Mom does, and this is what's important to me. So we adjust, we go on vacations, we do all of these planning things as grown-ups. And we model it to our kids. So that's what we want to keep remembering, is that we're always modeling to our children. How we parent is connected to how we build our lives. You know, we want to show them how we take care of ourselves with sleep, how we eat, how we deal with stress, how we deal with anxiety, how we deal with problems when they come up, how we try new things, how we step away from things that no longer work, whether it's friendships, or even the core parenting relationship, and co-create something that's different. And we can do this with presence, and we can do this with grace, and we can do this with collaboration, or we can do this with hurt and anger, and teach our children that horrible things happen and that no one ever gets over it for years and years. And that's not exactly inviting them to want to go through that process in the future. So how do you navigate life as a parent, as a team member, with little followers who are going to copy everything you do? That's what I do. I coach that process. So if you're interested, give me a call, drop me an email, ask me to come talk to you about this wonderful, wonderful role we get to play of leading young souls forward. So I'm Denise Dryden, and you can find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com, and I'm going to leave you a Sunday morning with the mockingbirds and a still river, and enjoy your day. Thank you.